plot of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim revolves around a godlike entity being thrust into the present and threatening to destroy the universe. That's a pretty big threat. We should probably try to stop it. Fast. In this video, I will try to find out how long it would take for a very determined Dragonborn to kill Alduin. So, a speedrun, right? Well, not necessarily. The aim of a speedrun is to complete the game in as little time as possible from the player's perspective. The aim of this playthrough is to kill Alduin in as little time as possible from the Dragonborn's perspective. But the perspective of the player and the Dragonborn should be one and the same, right? Not exactly. This is where fast travel comes into play. Skyrim calculates fast travel by seeing how long it would take to walk from a player's location to the intended destination, as if the Dragonborn were over-encumbered. For example, it takes 11 hours for the Dragonborn to fast travel from Riverwood to Riften, but it would only take 3 hours to ride there on horseback. So if we want to kill Alduin as quickly as possible, we cannot afford to fast travel. So my goal is clear. Kill Alduin in as little time as possible. I've given myself a few rules. Number 1, I cannot abuse unrealistic glitches such as horse tilting or plate clipping. Number 2, no major sequence breaking. I think I only broke this once by making a beeline for Esbern in a cornered rat instead of talking to Brynjol first. But good people shouldn't be associating with him anyway, so I think it's okay. Number 3, I should try to keep dialogue skipping to a minimum. I might be in a hurry, but that doesn't mean I should be rude and interrupt people. The only mods I have installed are Sky UI, which changes the interface to what you see here, Skyrim Script Extender, which is a prerequisite for Sky UI, Race Menu, which only affects the character creation screen, and most importantly, A Matter of Time, which adds the clock widget you see in the upper left-hand corner to help me keep track of time. I'm also playing on Adept difficulty. With all that out of the way, it's time to begin our run. This is Uvindil the Fleet-Footed. He's a male Altmer, which is the tallest and therefore fastest race-sex combo. I get control of Uvindil at 9:29 AM on Sundus the 17th of last seed. I rush the tower, get stuck on Alduin, and have to run back through the tower again. Not the best start, but it could be worse. I run through the rest of Helgen and get to the keep at 9:49 AM. Once Hadvar cuts me free, I kill a few Stormcloaks and rush for the exit, making sure to loot everything off of everyone I kill. The reason for this is twofold. 1, I need to be able to afford a horse that will carry me across Skyrim, preferably sooner rather than later. The other reason is that I want to get my speech skill high enough to pass the persuade check at the Thalmor embassy during diplomatic immunity, so I won't have to fight the Thalmor in the courtyard. I get out of Helgen Keep at 11:29, 2 hours after I gain control of Uvindil. So far, so good. Instead of heading directly to Riverwood, I take a detour through an unmarked bandit camp to loot their stuff. I actually end up over-encumbered from this, so I have to drop a few less valuable items. Along the way to Riverwood, I make sure to activate the Mage Stone. I'm playing as a mage for a couple of reasons. 1, as an Altmer, I already get a 50-point Magicka boost and the Highborn ability that allows me to regenerate Magicka quickly. 2, so I can chuck down an Atronach as a quick smokescreen to get enemies off of me. I also make sure to pick up a lot of ingredients, namely blue and red mountain flowers, monarch butterfly wings, and more tapenella mushrooms. These ingredients can be used to make health and magicka potions. In addition, I make sure to pick up hanging moss wherever I can because it can be combined with blue mountain flowers to create a valuable potion for cheap alchemy XP. Once I'm in Riverwood, instead of talking to Alvor, I talk to Sven. My reason for doing this is just so I don't have to sit through a bunch of dialogue. Clock's ticking! I also make sure to sell some of my stuff at Lucan's shop in addition to buying a few spells. I settle for Lesser Ward and Raise Zombie, the ward for fighting dragons and the zombie to distract enemies. With my quick pit stop in Riverwood over, it's time to head to Whiterun. Nothing really noteworthy happens here, although I do make some potions and buy some spells from Sovngarde to help me in Bleak Falls Barrow. Namely, Bound Sword and Conjure Flame Atronach. The sword in case I need to defend myself up close, and the Atronach in case I need a quick distraction. I also sell some stuff to Belethor before heading out. The walk to BFB wasn't too remarkable, but I did have to steer clear of these revelers so they wouldn't log me into conversation. I get to BFB at 4:10, almost 7 hours after I first started. Inside, I very conveniently find an Amulet of Dibella on a bandit. This gives me a 15-point speech boost and should help with persuasion checks. I go through the dungeon mostly as normal, although a bit faster and less careful. Thankfully, the enemies at this level are weak enough so that they aren't too time-consuming to kill. At the end, I melt the boss with 2 fireball scrolls and get out at 7:11 PM, 3 hours after I entered. On the way back to Whiterun, I get ambushed by bandit chiefs. Thankfully, they're slower than me. I also make sure to pick up some Lunamoth wings and Nerd Roots for invisibility potions, which make for cheap alchemy XP. Dragon Rising proceeds as normal. There isn't really anything you can do to speed it up, aside from talking to Eyrie immediately after Mustache Guy exits conversation with you. On the way to the watchtower, I make sure to travel slightly ahead of the guards so that I won't be tempted to use the wait function. I deal the final blow to Mirmalnir at 12:17 a.m. After Dragon Rising, it's time to go to High Hrothgar. Because Skulvar Sablehilt is asleep, I won't be able to buy a horse until morning, and I can't wait it out either since the clock is ticking. Instead of going to Iverstead and climbing up the 7,000 steps, I go just outside Riverwood and climb up to South Skybound Watch. I enter the ruin, exit through North Skybound Watch, and clamber my way up the mountain from there. After a bit of climbing, I find myself towards the end of the 7,000 steps and enter High Hrothgar at 5:06 a.m. The training is completely unremarkable, and I leave High Hrothgar at 7:41 a.m. On my way down the mountain, I steal from Ernskar, buy a horse, and make a quick pit stop in Whiterun for some supplies. It is now 9:29 a.m., 24 hours since Alduin attacked Helgen. In the time since, Uvindil the Fleet-Footed has escaped Helgen, warned the Jarl about a dragon, retrieved the Dragonstone from Bleak Barrow, killed a dragon, discovered he's the Dragonborn, has trained with the Greybeards, and is currently buying spells from Farengar to help him in Ustengrav. Not bad progress for a day. After that, it's time to go to Ustengrav. My main concern while traversing these plains is the threat of saber-cats, but I only ever encountered one in this playthrough, and he gave up on the chase quite quick. I go through Labyrinthian on my way to Ustengrav. Frost trolls can do a lot of damage, but thankfully they're not very fast. I get to Ustengrav at 11:37 a.m. I kill some wizards, loot their valuable robes, and make my way to the second part of the dungeon. Instead of going through the dining room, I clamber my way down the sledge and go straight for the word wall. Become Ethereal is crucial to surviving long falls, which I will need to do a lot of when leaving High Hrothgar. The rest of the dungeon proceeds as normal, except that I don't stop to fight the spiders. Once I have Delphine's note, it's time to meet her in Riverwood. I leave Ustengrav at 1:47 p.m. and embark on a rather uneventful ride, aside from a quick pit stop to sell some stuff to Resad. I arrive in Riverwood at 4:02 p.m., where the Mirac cultists are waiting for me. Thankfully, I manage to avoid them for now, and they don't follow me into the sleeping giant. I talk to Delphine as normal, and we embark on the journey to Kynesgrove to kill Sovngarde. Upon arrival in Kynesgrove, Skyrim manages to just work, and Delphine mistakes me for an enemy, and I almost softlock myself. And the last save I made was all the way back in Riverwood. Fun. I embark on my second journey to Kynesgrove, vowing to make a quick save once I get past Valtheim Towers. I naturally forget to do this, and die after my horse falls off a ledge. I embark on my third journey to Kynesgrove, and this time I arrive safe and sound around 7:30 p.m. The ensuing fight with Sovngarde and conversation with Delphine are pretty unremarkable as far as time saves go, and I start making my way back to Riverwood at 9:39 p.m. In a normal Skyrim run, I would usually return Jurgen's horn to the Greybeards before doing diplomatic immunity. However, that would take precious time, and I'll already be going there after Alduin's Wall, so it's not really worth it. I arrive back at Riverwood just at the stroke of midnight and manage to slip by the cultists once again. After listening to Delphine's plan, I foolishly assume Lucan's shop is open at 12:38 a.m. and attempt to enter with no success. On the way back to my horse, the cultists manage to confront me. I leave the conversation without saying a single word and run to my horse before they can get a single firebolt on me. I cross the plains of Whiterun, go through Labyrinthian again, through the swamps of Hjalmart and the town of Morthal, before dismounting my horse at the banks of the Karth River, swimming across and entering Solitude through the back entrance at 3:04 a.m. I give Melbourne the usual necessary equipment, and I'm extra careful to include the Amulet of Dibella. However, I foolishly believed I didn't need any weapons. I'm a mage, and I'm gonna be disguised as a Thalmor wizard anyway. Who needs a normal sword when you can just cast Bound Sword? Anyway, I send Melbourne on his way and meet back up with Delphine at 3:35. This is the part where having to fast travel is unavoidable. At least I thought. Upon further analysis of the footage, no time passes when you take the carriage to the Thalmor embassy. Now it's time for diplomatic immunity. I do the whole song and dance of giving Razlan his drink, sneaking out with Melbourne, and grabbing the items he smuggled in for me. If you're playing as an Altmer, you can do diplomatic immunity a bit differently. Instead of fighting your way through a Thalmor gauntlet at the courtyard, you can disguise yourself as one of them and convince the wizard guarding Elenwood's office to leave his post. I find a pair of non-hooded Thalmor robes in the storage room, but the guards don't fall for that disguise and attack me, and I get killed. Second time's the charm. I do all the distraction stuff again, use my Bound Sword spell, kill all 3 guards, steal the wizard's hooded robes, and successfully persuade the wizard guarding Elenwood's office to go away. Inside Alduin's office, the guards don't fall for my disguise, and I get cornered and killed in the torture room. This is a part where I can't just run past enemies because I need to talk to Etienne without getting killed, and I also need to kill them for the key to the Reeking Cave. Despite being pressed for time, I also managed to save Malborn, and we escape the embassy at 7:01 a.m. I go to the Temple of Meridian nearby and fast travel back to it to get my horse back. A 6-minute time loss, but hopefully it will be made up for with the greater speed and climbing ability of the horse. It is now 9:29 a.m., 48 hours after I first gained control of my character. I am currently crossing the plains of Whiterun on horseback. In the past 24 hours, I have fought my way through Ustengrav, met Delphine, killed Salaknir, and infiltrated the Thalmor embassy before heading back to Riverwood to tell Delphine about my discoveries. I returned to Riverwood at 10:13 a.m. to find the cultists wreaking havoc and casting fire spells on the townspeople. But I can't help them with Alduin afoot, so I go back inside to talk to Delphine, where she sends me to Riften to find Esbern. Unfortunately, however, Alvor fell in the great battle against the cultists. A tragic loss for the people of Riverwood. Both cultists were dead, but at what cost? Anyway, we need to go to Riften. Unfortunately, my horse dies when I misjudge the height of a ledge, so I have to walk the rest of the way. I try to stick close to the banks of the rivers and lakes so I could easily escape if a bear jumps out at me. Skyrim's bears are no joke. I enter Riften through the metery at 2:41 p.m. and go right for the Ratway instead of talking to Brynjolf. This is technically a sequence break since Delphine sends you to Brynjolf, but there is an alternate path you can take by talking to Kirava. Kirava directs you to the Ratway without forcing you to break the law. Talking to her would probably add a couple minutes, but not as much as Brynjolf. I also do another sequence break by going right for the Ratway vaults without talking to Vekkel the man. In the vaults, I kill this wizard and jump right down to get to the Warrens. The meeting with Esbern is pretty uneventful, and we successfully escape the Ratway at 5:36 p.m. On the way out of Riften, I buy a horse from Hofgrir and embark on the journey back to Riverwood. About halfway through, my horse falls off a cliff and dies, so I decide to reload. On my second attempt to leave Riften, I figure I'll ride across the docks to the south shore of Lake Honrich. I get stuck and decide to reload again. On my third attempt, I ride around the city and along the south shore, which seems to work out fine. The biggest threat I encounter is an Unbound flame atronach near Helgen, which my new horse foolishly decides to attack. I arrive in Riverwood at 9:02 p.m. where I let Esbern and Delphine talk for a moment. After listening to Esbern's spiel about Alduin's wall, it's time to embark on yet another ride on my new steed. We set off for Karthspire at 10:22 p.m. I dismount my horse at Soyen Sinkhole at 12:30 a.m. because I don't want her to try and 1v1 a Hagraven. I waste 35 minutes trying to fight the Forsworn and the dragon before realizing that I can just walk into the Karthspire cave, where I complete all the puzzles and gain access to Skyhaven Temple at 1:57 a.m. After that, it's time to run around and loot the place while Esbern does a lot of talking. After a little chat with Delphine, it's time to meet up with the Greybeards. I leave Skyhaven Temple at 3:16 a.m. and meet back up with my horse at Soyen Sinkhole. I get attacked by a dragon and a sabercat at the same time, which are my two biggest concerns when crossing through the plains, but they both seem to give up the chase pretty quickly. After a ride across the plains, through Riverwood and up the Throat of the World, I arrive at High Hrothgar at 7:30 a.m. This is one of the more dialogue-intensive portions of the game, so there isn't really much room for time-saving measures. The Greybeards recite their little poem, Arngir tells me off for associating with the Blades, and they refer me to Paarthurnax. It is now 9:29 a.m., 72 hours since I first started this run. Within the past 24 hours, I have rode from Riverwood to Riften and back again to rescue Esbern, rediscovered Skyhaven Temple, and returned to the Greybeards, who are currently teaching me the Clear Skies shout. Instead of taking the usual path, I do some time saving by climbing directly up the mountain in my horse. After the usual lengthy chat with Paarthurnax, I'm finally able to start looking for the Elder Scroll at 1:30 p.m. At this point, I could go directly to Septimus's outpost, but Uvindil isn't omniscient, so he needs to ask around to learn where to find an Elder Scroll. Arngir directs me to the college, so it's off. I gracefully slide down the Throat of the World to the Whiterun Stormcloak camp. I fast travel to the same location, losing 2 minutes but getting my horse back. I ride across the White River, heading northeast past Felglow Keep where some bandits have picked a fight with some horses, through the forests of the Pale and up north through the Wayward Pass. I then head northeast along the rocky mountainside so as to confuse the pathing of any would-be enemies. I arrive at the College of Winterhold at 4:40 p.m. and Feralda grants me access after a brief test. After that, it's time to talk to Urag, who directs me to Septimus Cygnus. I use my Become Ethereal shout to safely jump through a window to the beaches below and scramble my way across the ice floes, reaching Septimus's outpost at 6:49 p.m. Septimus spends an hour talking to me and directs me to Ulfdand, where I arrive at 9:19 p.m. In my first attempt to get through Ulfdand, I try fighting all the spiders and get killed by Jadar. Good job. In my second attempt, I blaze through the glacial ruins, stopping only to loot some free soul gems or dwarven oil off of broken robots, and using flame atronachs as distractions. Inside the Animunculory, I use my Become Ethereal shout to jump to the bottom of the pit, skipping most of that area. In the Cathedral, I get cornered by 2 angry Falmer as soon as I enter, set off a trap, and get killed by a 3rd Falmer whacking me with his axe. On my second Cathedral attempt, I drink a potion of Resist Frost, get slowed down by some frost spell wielding Falmer, successfully lower the gate, run past the boss, ignore the 2 adventurers arguing whether they should turn back or not, and activate the mechanism that lowers the stairway to Blackreach. I reach Blackreach at 10:37 p.m., where I make a beeline for the Tower of Mazark, using Flame Atronachs to distract any Falmer. I reach the Tower of Mazark at 11:17, where I get the Elder Scroll after a brief looting session. I finally leave Mazark at 11:58 p.m., taking mere 2 hours and 39 minutes to enter Ulfdand and leave with an Elder Scroll. Ulfdand is probably the part of the run that I'm the most proud of. Usually going to Ulfdand is a long and tedious endeavor, often taking more than an hour in real time. In this run, it took me 12 minutes and 28 seconds IRL, including Blackreach, the Mazark puzzle, and multiple deaths. After leaving the Tower of Mazark, it's time to return to the Throat of the World. In order to get there in a timely manner, I need my horse back from the College of Winterhold. I begin walking back to Whiterun, but a docile blood dragon is refusing to let me fast travel. Finally, I manage to fast travel at the Battleborn Farm, losing 6 minutes but getting my horse back. From there, I do the usual routine of riding to Riverwood and climbing the Throat of the World from there. I arrive at the Time Wound at 3:45 a.m., and after being stuck in the past for an hour and 37 minutes, it's time to fight Alduin. This part, I am not proud of. I was severely underleveled to be taking on Alduin at only level 8. I began fighting Alduin at 5:28 a.m. and didn't beat him until 7:41 a.m., spending 2 hours and 13 minutes in combat with him. After that, it's time for the quest I was looking forward to the least, Seize an Unending. If I grinded speech a little more, I could possibly have avoided this quest by simply persuading Balgruuf to let me trap a dragon in his palace, but I didn't. It is now 9:29 a.m., 4 days after I first gained control of Uvindil at Helgen. In the past 24 hours, I have spoken with Paarthurnax, gained entry to the College of Winterhold, spoken with Septimus Signus, descended to Ulfdand, walked through Blackreach, emerged from the depths with an Elder Scroll, got a blast from the past, and defeated Alduin for the first time. I'm currently checking his stump for more Tapanella mushrooms before speaking with the Jarl about letting him trap a dragon in his palace. I talked to Balgruuf, who doesn't let me trap a dragon in his palace without first brokering a peace deal between the Empire and the Stormcloaks. Fine. It's time to talk to Arngeir about setting up a peace council. For some reason, Arngeir is on the road just east of Riverwood. I couldn't tell you why. Did he get knocked off the mountain during the battle with Alduin? Was he having a visit with Sven's mom? Regardless, his presence here makes my job a lot easier. Now it's time to ride to Windhelm to convince Ulfric to attend the Peace Council. On the way there, however, my horse falls off a ledge and dies. Conveniently, there's another horse just down the road with no apparent owner, so I take this one to Windhelm instead. I also kill this one by riding him off a cliff near Ralbathar. So now I have to walk the rest of the way to Windhelm. Just outside Windhelm, I'm ambushed by Khajiit Battlemage, who does a lot of damage. I'm thankfully able to get him out of the way with Unrelenting Force and make a break for it. I arrive at the Palace of the Kings at 3:08 p.m., where Ulfric agrees to attend the peace conference. After purchasing a new horse at the Windhelm stables, it's off to Solitude to get Tullius to attend. After riding my way through the snowy forests of the Pale and the swamps of Fjellmarch, I dismount my horse at the banks of the Karth and swim to Solitude's back entrance. I enter Castle Dower at 7:28 p.m. and successfully convince Tullius to attend. Now it's time to ride back to High Hrothgar, where the peace conference can begin. I return to where I left my horse, but I can't seem to find her. Regardless, I begin hoofing it back to Whiterun. I'm attacked by a dragon near Deadman's Respite, but thankfully I can keep him grounded with Dragon Rend, so he's not much of a threat. I make my way to the Swindler's Den and fast travel back to it, getting my horse back but losing 6 minutes in the process. Nevertheless, I carry on to High Hrothgar. Along the way, I meet Jarl Balgruf, an important political figure, walking to High Hrothgar alone at night. Nords truly are a brave people. After climbing up to the Throw of the World, I encounter Arngeir shouting at a frost troll. I give him a hand and ride up the rest of the 7,000 steps to High Hrothgar. I enter High Hrothgar at 2:13 a.m. and the conference officially begins at 2:52 a.m. and lasts until 5:45. Esbern tells me to kill Paarthurnax, I'm not doing that, and teaches me the shout to call Odahviing. I slide down the Throw of the World, at one point getting too cocky with Become Ethereal and dying. Regardless, I hoof it to Whiterun to summon Odahviing as quickly as possible. I arrive at the Great Porch at 8:14 a.m. and trap Odahviing at 8:44 a.m. It is currently 9:29 a.m., exactly 5 days after I first started this run. In the past 24 hours, I have spoken with Balgruf about trapping a dragon in his palace, rode to Riverwood to talk to Arngeir, rode to Windhelm to talk to Ulfric, rode to Solitude to talk to Tullius, rode to High Hrothgar, negotiated a ceasefire between the Empire and the Stormcloaks, and returned to Whiterun to trap a dragon, with whom I am now speaking. After freeing Odahviing, it's time to ride him to Skuldafn. Like the carriage ride to the Thalmor Embassy, no time actually passes in the loading screen between Odahviing flying off into the distance and the Dragonborn appearing in Skuldafn. I arrive at Skuldafn at 10:28 a.m. and blitz my way through by letting the Draugr attack my Flame Atronachs instead of wasting a bunch of time fighting each one, doing the puzzles while the Draugr are distracted. Thankfully, the Draugr are also pretty weak since I'm only level 8. I make my way out of Skuldafn Temple and run into the portal to Sovngarde before the Dragon Priest has a chance to close it. I enter Sovngarde at 12:26 p.m. and it goes pretty much how you would expect. Tun is good at dodging firebolts, but he only manages to get one hit off on me. The final fight with Alduin began at 3:20 p.m. and I got the final hit off at 4:38 p.m. on Fretis, the 22nd of last seed, 4th era 201. 5 days, 7 hours, and 9 minutes after Uvindil the Fleet-footed stood up after almost having his head cut off. In real life, this took me 7 hours, 41 minutes, and 38 seconds, including deaths and menu navigation. An additional 2 weeks of editing. Is this the fastest anyone's ever completed Skyrim? I'm not actually sure, but it's not the fastest possible time. There are numerous ways in which I could have improved my time. Collecting more ingredients and brewing more potions to be able to take down Alduin faster would help. I could have also been more precise with dialogue choices, researching which dialogue tree is the fastest. I also didn't utilize Whirlwind Sprint a lot like speedrunners do. If you think you can beat my time, by all means go right ahead.